our group, I was in charge of reading page 24. And page 24 was about the 5 punishments, which is basically like a law code. And inside of that law code, there's 3,000 offenses that you can break. And if you break these offenses, you will be punished. And one of the most severe offenses of the 5 punishments was being un-Xiao, which is lacking the respect, the filial piety to your elders. And this directly correlates to the good earth, specifically found on page 63, when Wang Lung's uncle goes to the field to see him, and he starts saying, you are rich, you have bought the land from the great house at the gods know what heavy price. Is there another in the village who could do this thing? And this made Wang Lung very angry. And he told his uncle, if I have a handful of silver, it is because I work and my wife works, and we do not, as some do, sit idling over a gambling table or gossiping on doorsteps never swept, letting the field grow to weeds and our children go half-fed. This made Wang Lung's uncle very angry because Wang Lung disrespected him. And when he did this, the uncle started screaming, do you not have religion, morals, that you are so lacking in filial conduct? Have you not heard it said in the sacred edicts, it is commanded that a man is never to correct an elder? So this was, Wang Lung greatly disrespected the uncle, and the uncle wasn't going to let this go. So the uncle threatened him and told Wang Lung that he was going to tell the whole village, and how when the village heard of this, it was going to be such a scandal, if you want to say, that Wang Lung was going to be punished, and things weren't going to go so well for Wang Lung. So when Wang Lung heard of this and he was threatened, he took it back. He took the comment back. And this just greatly exemplifies how filial conduct, being respectful to your elders and acting in that certain way, which is basically letting the elders have it their way and not really speaking your mind, is and was such a big part of Chinese culture, because they basically threatened them, which is what happened. It's, if you're un-Xiao, something's not right with you and you are going to get punished for it. And that's what Wang Lung's uncle did. He said, okay, you told me these disrespectful words, I'm going to go tell the village now, you're going to, basically you're going to pay for what you said to me. And that's why Wang Lung took it back, because he would have obviously gotten in great trouble if the uncle were to tell the village.
And it says that Xiao is a significant part of society. It's like a pillar, meaning it is a fundamental part that takes place in forming the society. And then D was the respect for elders, which in the same way, it kind of helps form the society, because it is important for individuals to have etiquette, whether it be sitting in the dinner table or anywhere. But it is important for us to show etiquette towards everyone, whether they be younger or older than us. And in the translation part of page 27, it said that Xiao is a very important pillar in maintaining good social order based on the virtues of love, kindness, courtesy, and harmony. With Xiao and Di, the society can be at order, meaning it won't be disorganized or there won't be any chaos, because it's very important for us to show it to others, and it will give a base to us, like from that which we can sprout and form a good society or a common society. That way we all do everything sort of the same or stuff like that. And then for someone to receive respect and kindness, we have to show it to others, just as we give to others what we want to receive, or we treat others the way we wanted to be treated. With that, it can be more of a type of common relations between people, whether they be of a different race, whether they be of a different culture. We kind of have to treat all of each other but the same, and have the same respect towards others, for it to be a Xiao society, for us to have the same type of society and show what we want to receive to the other people that form who we are.
Chapter 13 on Broad and Highest Virtue of Jing. And after reading the original translation from the Chinese text and then the translator's explanatory comment, this is the information that I got from it. So number one, Xiao is taught for one and only one fundamental reason, which is to teach others and to learn as well. How to respect the elderly fathers and the ancestors. Whether it's taught or learned, you need to be aware of what Jing is and incorporate it in your life, whether you're wealthy, whether you're poor, whether you're in the middle class. Everybody in Chinese culture needs to put Jing into practice. Number two, Jing does not control cultural and personal matters only, but social and group matters as well. For it's both practiced internally and externally. With that said, it is practiced at home. That is the base, that is where you learn it, that is where you teach it. But it is also incorporated in daily life for it to have a bigger impact on society, on the way that Chinese culture works, in the government specifically. You know, it's in the inside for it to work on the outside. It's a constant circle that once it's learned and can be taught and then incorporated to work and balance itself out as a whole. Then I also learned that the contemporary translator uses the explanation that he says about Xiao's purpose and control instead of using the original like translations on logic interpretation, because as he said at the beginning when he explained what Xiao was at all, he says that it's not directly or exactly filial piety, but instead based on more like the respect of the fathers. So I think that what the translator is trying to do throughout the whole 40 something pages, 38 pages, is trying to base more all the definitions and trying to explain all of Xiao with more like factual evidence instead of just interpretation. We can back this up with the Good Earth in a quote from page 302 that says as follows. Now that there are 3 generations in this house, we should have the tablets of ancestors that great families have, and we should set the tables up to be worshipped at the feast days, for we are an established family now. This pleased Wang Lung greatly, and so he ordered it, and so it was carried out. And there, in the great hall, the row of tablets was set up, his grandfather's name on one, and then his father's, and the spaces left empty for Wang Lung's name and his sons when they should die. And Wang Lung's son bought an incense urn and set it before the tablets. I think that the way that this quote relates to pages 24 message is that the death is not the end of a Chinese person's life, specifically when it comes to a male. Instead, according to Chinese culture, you should always respect and acknowledge the presence of a spirit, of an ancestor, whether it's living or it's in the next dimension. You need to worship. And in this case, he's worshiping not only his father, but his grandfather, and then he sets a tablet for his name, and then for his son's name. There's another part of the book that doesn't just talk about death, but more about like equity, about behavior, which is what Xiao is all about. And basically it's trying to, the book is really just trying to say that the way that the character interacts, the way that the character constantly behaves, is a way that the reader uses, not the reader, the writer uses to explain to all the readers that the behavior that you put out there socially, meaning externally, and the behavior that you put in at home, the behavior that Wang Lung constantly carries out with his family, which means internally, it expresses and portrays Xiao. So that's it.
first portion of page 27 brings a new concept that goes together with Xiao called tea. The concept of tea has to do with being respectful to elders, first and foremost with one's elder brother, but also expands to any elder in general. This is used as a defense when Wang Lung's uncle says, "Now that, for speaking to your father generation, have you no religion, no morals, that you are so lacking in filial conduct? Have you not heard it said in the sacred edicts, it is commanded that a man is never to correct an elder?" On page 63, which leads Wang to help out his uncle. While this can be confused for Xiao, it is actually tea, and they both go hand in hand. When one is Xiao, or being good to the parents as the base of a foundation, one is naturally inclined to be tea or respectful to elder. The second portion displays a new concept embedded in Xiao. It teaches that if a ruler is kind to his people will be compliant back. This is like a reward system where if you do something good, you get something good back. In the good earth, when Wang Lung came for Olan, the mistress of the house gave her for free. "Obey him and bear him sons and yet more sons. Bring the first child to me for me to see," on page 18, was the only request she said. Since she was kind, she was probably expecting something in return, like the blessing of their god.
On page 29, the first two quotes are explaining how being kind and respectful to your parents is the meaning of Xiao. However, the conflict in this quote is whether or not obeying orders of a father is considered Xiao. In the quotes, the son follows the orders of the father without question or argument. Xiao is meant to be coming from the will, not what you're supposed to do for your parents. But Confucius disagrees that obeying every order is considered Xiao. He disagrees that obeying a father's rule is what Xiao is. This applies to Wang Lung because he is forced to take care of his father, because if he doesn't take care of his father, then he would be disrespecting him and his family, giving him a bad fame. It's tradition to take care of their parents, but it should not be an order, but more of an action from the heart. Just like Confucius disagrees on, Wang Lung only follows order. He takes care of his father because he has to, not because he wants to. What Wang Lung is doing, according to Confucius, is not considered Xiao. On page 29, the third quote is explaining how Confucius describes the importance of having subordinates, which are followers or assistants of their leaders. Even though the leaders will not lose their positions, it is good to have subordinates who disagree with their rulers because it is beneficial to give them more ideas. An example in the Good Earth would be when Wang Lung was going to sell his land, on page 87. Olan disagrees with him by telling him not to sell the land because when they come back from the south, the land will be there so they can eat. Having subordinates like Olan to Wang Lung is important because it gives their leaders good ideas. On page 30, the first quote is explaining how when the father leader is about to do something unrighteousness, which is sinful or unfair, then the son or subordinate must stand up to their leaders without a doubt. It is a duty to stand up to the father or leader who will fall into unrighteousness. An example from the Good Earth would be when Wang Lung was about to make an unrighteous decision when he was going to sell his daughter, on page 133. However, without hesitation, Olan stood up to him by telling him not to sell his daughter because she was sold as a child and was beaten every day. This convinced and changed Wang Lung's mind from making an unrighteous decision that he was about to make.